Welcome to Impacting Mindsets Global. I'm Global, is she. Dr. Diaz is impacting Mindsets Global. She is literally changing minds one client at a time. I'm Global serves people of all walks of life, like game changers, innovators, creators, or anyone aspiring to achieve their goals, but need a little bit of assistance with overcoming obstacles, preventing you from getting there, starting with your mind. Dr. Diaz is a certified life coach and Christian counselor, motivational speaker, and author. She also has 25 years of experience as an educator, which sets her apart from others in the field. She is impacting mindsets global. I'm global, is she. As the founder and CEO of I'm Global, Dr. Diaz has multiple services designed to assist clients and audiences in the areas of dating, relationships, education, and business nonprofits. Packages and services are designed for individuals, small groups, and organizations. The plans are also made up of quality services that will help you get to your desired goals quickly and professionally. Services are also offered online via Zoom, video chat, telephone, and in person. For more information, go to www.impactingmindsetsglobal.com and subscribe. Then follow her on all social media. You can follow on Instagram at Dr. Keisha Capers or on Facebook at Dr. Keisha Capers and at Impacting Mindsets. Impacting Mindsets Global. I'm Global. Is she?
Welcome to the broadcast. Woohoo! It's been a while. Thank you so much for tuning in. This is Chat and Tea with Dr. D, the podcast. Listen, we got a lot to talk about today. I don't know if you were able to see the lineup of our discussion. Shout out to all the singles out there. Where are the singles at? Not just the single ladies, but the single men. Where are you? I want to speak directly to you on tonight. Welcome to Saturday Live. This is what we do on Saturdays, especially for our singles. If you're not doing nothing, chime into the podcast. We want to talk about things, all things relationships, singles, the process, the wait. We want to encourage you. We want to edify you. We want to motivate you to stay the course and give you some food to think about. Welcome to the broadcast. I see you. Hey, Willa. Thank you so much for tuning in. This is what we do, and we haven't been doing this in quite some time, but we do like to come in and do our chat and tea events. So just look for that. I figure since I'm homebound, I might as well just make good use of my social media. And it's been a while since we did a Saturday Live. So if you haven't already liked this video, like this, give us some love and some hearts, and feel free to make some commentary, okay? So this is shout out to all the singles. We're going to talk about single life, of course. We're going to talk about V-Day. We know Valentine's Day is coming, is right around the corner. So we're going to talk a little bit about that, and we're going to talk about the wait on tonight. Again, thank you so much for tuning in, and I appreciate the likes. Listen. How is single life faring? How's it going? Is it good? Are you at a good, space? Are you a good pace in your dating life? Are you dating? Are you participating in that? Or are you just opting to just tap out for now? Where are you in your singleness? I can speak for me. So we're all about transparency on our single journey. For some that may not know, Dr. Kesha is single. I'm single, y'all. Single as a dollar bill. Okay. I have been single for quite some time. Now, I was open to dating and I was dating for a season, but I'm at the place where I feel like in this moment in time that I'm just waiting. And there is a difference when I say waiting, meaning I fleeced, I put myself out there, I did the roof thing by positioning myself, I did that. Now I'm just in a mental space where I just need to clear up a few things. Just a few. I need to clear up just a few things. Need to get some stuff out of the way on a personal level before I maybe put myself out there again. So I'm definitely at that waiting stage right now, waiting to date and just waiting on God and also waiting for the man of God that God has for me to step up and to do what he needs to do. Good evening. Hey, thank you so much for tuning in. You single too? Okay, single ladies. Amen. We are single and we are out here and we are waiting on the Lord. And that's not necessarily a bad thing either. It's not necessarily a bad thing to be single right now. And then that goes to our second topic, which is Valentine's Day. We know that when the holidays come around, it can kind of be kind of hard, for singles because we see everybody flexing on the gram, people showing their love. And that's a beautiful thing. I love love. Love is a beautiful thing. When couples show that they're in love or in like or in whatever, I think it's beautiful. But at the same time, I do also understand for some people, not all, for some people, it can be a distraction. For some people, it can make them feel some kind of way. They can become triggered, by seeing all that lovey-dovey stuff. But to be honest, and I'm just going to be honest with you, if you are triggered by other people, showing their love and affection, then that's definitely a you problem, not a them problem. That's definitely a you problem. And then you need to figure out, why it is that you're triggered by their love. Is it jealousy? Is it envy? Is it that you're not being content in your singleness? What exactly is it? You got to really identify what that thing is. And then you need to work on that because what I've learned over the years is when you rejoice with them that rejoice, come on. Yeah, when you weep with them that weep, you have a tendency with that spirit of gratitude to open doors and opportunities come your way because you are at a place of gratitude and you appreciate what God has done for others. And that if God has done it for others, that he can do it for you. So, yeah, let's just celebrate with those that are showing their love. And hopefully it's authentic because we know how people are, they put on airs and stunts and shows on their social media. They pretend like, they're all at a good place when they're really not, or they just use it, their social media platform to reminisce about the good times that they had, but they're really not, in a good place. So sometimes, you do have to put yourself in someone else's shoes. Because there are times when relationships are not what they appear to be. And just because it appears to be one way on social media, it can be a whole nother way in real life. So you also have to bear that. You have to take that into consideration and bear that in mind and keep that in mind that there are times when people overshare because they're really speaking from a place of pain, and they're reminiscing about what was once there, but they're no longer there anymore. They're no longer, that relationship is no longer at that loving place, and or they're in the process of breaking up, and that could be another thing. And they're kind of using their social media as a means of getting the other person's attention because they're in the process of losing the relationship. So there are many reasons as to why people do that on a psychological place. They use it to get attention. They use it to seek, you know what I mean, to express, their thoughts, their inner processing. People use social media platforms for many, many reasons. So we should not take it personal if we see people doing those things. Just pray for them, especially when no. Because some people, outside of social media, in real life, and exactly where they are, and that they're putting up a front on their social media page. Just pray for them. Yeah, pray for them. That's what we should do. But not be jealous or envious, because we do know that same God that blessed them, or that same God that is keeping them and gave them who they have as a companion, is the same God that is able and capable of blessing us. But you know what I like about the holidays, and I will say this, that candy be going on sale. So, yeah, you may not have a Valentine if you celebrate. You may not have that special someone per se. You may not get that bouquet of flowers. Buy your own bouquet. Buy your own self some candy. right? Treat yourself to some dinner. Don't be afraid of the season that you're in. Don't be afraid of your singleness. Embrace it. As a matter of fact, press into it. You know what I'm saying? Make it a whole joke and a whole gag. Look who sent me some flowers. Take a picture. Me. Guess who bought me some candy? Me. Love on you. Get a massage. Take a bath with some candles lit. You know what I mean? Create an ambiance for yourself. Cook yourself a special dinner. Go out to dinner. Don't be afraid of pampering you and celebrating you and going out, again, eating alone. Like, I got over that a long time ago. I've been single. Funny thing is, I was single for maybe like, I want to say single as in my adulthood, put it like that, because, different when you're young. But let's say about when I turned 21, I was in a relationship, right? For like, it was a long relationship. And I broke up with him. Long story short, I accepted Jesus Christ. And then from that point that I accepted him, I was on this single journey and practicing celibacy and being kept. That's a whole nother level, right? That's a whole nother level. So I went through a season, never married, but yet single, right? And then I tried at one point, there was a moment where I got engaged and it didn't work out. And then I was single again and being kept within that span of time. When it was from 21 to 29, there was an engagement in between there, but the rest of the time I was single, right? Not dating. There are people that were interested though, and I was interested in people, but I just made that decision, and that's what it was. And I was kept from that span of time. And then I got married at 29. Okay. And I was married, and I want to include the legally part because I don't believe in dating even while separated. Hello. Or, newly divorced. I had to be real good in divorce before I just started again dating again. So I was married from 29. I don't even know the age. I think it might have been like 12 years. So whatever that comes out to age wise. I was married and then legally married for about 12 years. And then I got a divorce. And I guess that was what, do the math. Let me do the math real quick. 21, 29 got married, was married for 12 years. Do the math, carried it one. All right, so I was around 41. Okay, 41, newly single. All right, so right now I am. I'm 51. What's that? 10 years. 10 years. Okay. 10 years. Okay, 10 years, and then in between that, I dated a few people. Praise God, but they just weren't the one, right? But in the meanwhile, I eat alone comfortably. Like, I can easily go somewhere and eat and enjoy myself. I travel alone comfortably. Okay, even out of the country. But there was someone that I knew that was meeting me on the other side, another female meeting me on the other side, but I traveled out of the country by myself. So I traveled a lot by myself, and I'm comfortable with that. I eat by myself. I go out. I enjoy life. I go to spas by myself. I enjoy life. So I just want to say, I say all that to say, and again, it's not that I don't have people on my phone that I can call. It's not that. It's not that I, can't date or be in a relationship, because I can. There are people right now that are interested, but I'm making a choice, right? You said I'm going to take myself out. There you go. I'm making a choice, right? We're cracking up. I'm making a choice to be single. That is a conscious choice, and not necessarily date, because there are a few things that I know that I have to kind of get together. There's some things I honestly don't believe, and I know the Lord is preparing me, but I'm not ready to be a wife because I understand what that means and what's involved. Like, I understand because I was married before. When I was single prior to that knowledge, I felt that I was ready to be a wife at the stage and phase that I was in at the time. But at this stage and phase in life, now that I'm 51 and I have two boys, one grown, newly grown, 19-year-old, and one that is 16, about to be 17, and they're transitioning into college, and one is already in college, and other one's transitioning to finish high school. There are some things, right, that I have yet to focus on, and I really don't have time to, in my opinion, in my assessment, not at this moment, to really focus on a relationship too. because I feel like when people are ready, especially two people, when they're really, and when I don't date to be dating, and that's another thing. If it was a date to be dating thing that I wanted, then sure, I would date just for companionship. And that's okay too. If you want to date for companionship, because maybe let's say you don't want to go out to eat alone, Elizabeth, you want to go on a dating app, or you know people in your area that you're cool with, then sure, get on call and say, hey, you know what, let's go out to eat, or let's have some coffee. It doesn't necessarily have to be a date per se. You know, you don't even have to call it that. You can just say, hey, I want somebody to hang out with. What you doing? You busy? Come on, let's go hang out, you know, and let's go do this and that, or do activities together. So there is a difference between having a companion or somebody to accompany you to activities and you having a good time and just being and you know entertaining one another's company. To me, that's different from dating, because I take dating very serious. I feel like dating, the whole process is the whole point is to collect data to make a decision as to whether that person is the one for you. So I don't believe in dating haphazardly. I believe dating is should be done with intention and with purpose. But in however, if you just wanted to hang out and you just want to have a good time and you just want to invite somebody along, then that's fine. That is fine even for you as a woman, especially if it's not a dating situation. If you want to call a male friend and say, hey, you know what, I want some male companionship. Come on, let's go hang out, let's go bowling. Hey, let's go shoot some pool. Hey, let's go see a movie. You know, it's okay for you to take the initiative and do that, right? It's okay for you to do that. And I think that we are at a place, you know, in this dispensation of time, that people won't view that as being thirsty or that you chasing them, especially when you're not really interested in anything romantic per se. So that to me is different. When we're hanging out and it's not romantic and it's platonic, yeah, sure, you can, you know, you can make the first move if you, hey, what you doing? They probably not even thinking about it. You hungry? Yeah, let's go get something to eat. Okay, cool. You know, and I think that we should, especially after a certain age, you know what I mean? We just don't have to play those kind of games no more. We know what it is, we know what time it is, we know what we want, we know where we're at, and we just know. So we know if that person is could be a potentially our person or not. And if they're not, it's okay to say, hey, you know, I don't really foresee this going anywhere beyond friendship. Let's just hang out from time to time. They may welcome the companionship too. You know what I mean? They may want to be, you know, in the presence of a female. Just it's just something about a male and female dynamic that's different than hanging with your girls all the time. You know what I mean? You can talk about stuff maybe that your girls may not be, you know, privy to in terms of topic, conversation, content. They may not know the male perspective. You can kind of, you know, glean from them, you know, about men and ask questions. You know what I mean? I had a lot of male friends, and I've had male best friends. And to me, they were some of my best friends, my good friends, because of that male perspective that I got from them that I could not get from my female friends. Right. So I just want to encourage you that even though, you know, the season is high and everybody's focusing on what it is, you know, about their relationship and about love and all that stuff, don't feel depressed, don't feel anxious. You know, I don't want that to drive you to get into a situation prematurely, or to connect with someone, or to be in covenant with somebody that's not suitable for you or acceptable. You know, the guy as well as the girl has to be compatible with you. You know what I mean? It's not just a one-sided, you know, coin. It's not just the men have to find a woman that is suitable, but you also as a woman need to find a man that is suitable, or you have to at least confirm the person that has come to you, the one that's coming to you is suitable, or whether they're not. So don't feel pressure of seasons and moments, because truthfully, once the 15th of Valentine's or the 15th of February comes, it's a whole new day. So we know that on that day, yes, before the day comes in, we're gonna see a lot of photo bombs. We know, you know, that we're gonna see some videos. There are gonna be videos of people getting, you know, proposed to, you know. And to me, this is it. You know, and I share this all the time with men. Men don't think like women. Like we really don't have the same type of thoughts. We really don't. Men don't often think about the path to marriage, and they don't overthink about like proposals and stuff like that. Maybe if they have a female in their life, like a sister or a cousin or another female friend that's tight with them, they'll put in their ear, you should do something special. Or maybe in their heart, they feel like they want to do something special for you, but they may not necessarily know what that special may look like or how that may be presented. So they may have another female in their life, like their mom or whomever, auntie or whatever, a female voice that would say, hey, won't you do something really special? Won't you make it meaningful, like an engagement? You should try to capture it, because this moment you guys are going to want to look back on. But men don't naturally sit back and just think about, oh, well, what should I do? Not most men. I'll say that there are some men that are like really romantic types and that sort of thing. But I want to say the majority of men, they don't really think like that. They are more practical. You know what I mean? What can be done the quickest? What can be done? You know what I mean? I know she want a nice ring. I mean, I know most women like diamonds, or most women like a nice ring. Let me get something beautiful that she, whatever. Or they may be a miser. They may want to keep their money and take the shortcut. So either they're a man that wants to lavish you, or they're a man that wants to take the shortcut, or they may give you something practical that may seem, what's suitable at the time. So depending on the man. But most men don't really be contemplating, like the ceremony, the wedding, the planning, and all. Most men are not into that. So oftentimes we get upset because they're like, well, this is our, we're planning our wedding, or we're planning this and that, and you're not into it. Well, naturally they're not. So we have to understand that as women and stop putting that social pressure on them to be something that they're not. They're not females. So we just have to respect them where they are. Of course, we want their input. And then on the other side of the coin, it could be that females dominate that space where they won't even allow their significant other to have a voice or a say so either. So it could be on the opposite end of the spectrum where we may want too much and our expectation is just a bit too much. Or it could be that it's just too low and then we just don't allow them to have any input at all. It's okay to have conversations and to bring it up and to let everybody have a say in whatever that you do, especially when you're talking about milestones. So yes, we're going to find some people getting engaged. Yes, we are going to find, especially on Valentine's Day, people maybe even getting married. Don't be triggered by that. When it's your time and when it's your season, I'm speaking to singles, you're going to know it. And in the meanwhile, why don't you begin to think about what it is that you want? Why don't you begin to think about, because I think it's nothing worse, just like going out to dinner, when men be like, well, what do you want to eat? And we say, I don't know. That's frustrating to men because when they do ask what we want, oftentimes we don't know what we want. And it's frustrating. And then if we just let them lead, right, without any input, we get mad when they don't maybe make the decision we think they should make, or make the plans that we think that they should make. So that's why, that miscommunication happens in relationship, is because women don't often know what they want. Men don't know what women want, or their woman in particular, they don't know necessarily what you want. You guys are trying to get to know each other. So I say this, I say, start finding out. Those of you all that are single, you plan on being married one day, you believe in God for that marriage and that relationship. Begin to think about the type of ring that you want. Begin to think about, what kind of cut that you like, what kind of diamond that you like. Know what your ring size is. Like all those types of information and those nuances, just get familiar with that space so that you'll know how to answer the question when he asks you what your ring size is. Right? Or he may ask a family member if he's trying to surprise you, then you need to start having those conversations, especially when you know what I mean, that you're in a relationship and it's getting serious and it's a potential of getting serious. Then let your parents know, let your mom know, let your sister know, right? If you don't have any sisters, maybe you have a brother, let them know, because the person, your potential significant other, may inquire, right, with your family, and then they'll have the answer, right? So they'll be able to do the right thing. And so your ring doesn't have to be resized because it's either too big or too small. So that's some tips that I can do in terms of preparation while you're single. We're talking about the waiting phase. I already checked in on our singles. We already talked about V-Day. Now let's talk about the waiting stage. If you know that ultimately you're going to be engaged and one day be married, then you need to start preparing for that. How do we prepare? I have this whole thing that I'm in the process of building, which is a premarital, I like to call it premarital counseling, or things to do and planning for singles, because there are some things that we don't even deal with until we're in a relationship that's serious. And now we want to talk about our credit score and we haven't been working on it. Now we're talking about, different things like home ownership and ownership when we haven't even figured it out within our own self in our singleness. So there are some things that we should already have a sense of knowing before we come into a relationship. So when the topics come up, we can provide answers to questions and to provide information that is needed so that you guys can test to see if you are compatible when it comes to your goals long term, and you can see if you're suitable for each other. But if you don't even know yourself, and you don't even know where you're going and what it is that you're supposed to be doing, that it's going to be difficult to get to know you. And what they're going to do is just get to know the shell of you. They're just going to know just a fraction of you. And then when you say I do, you're having all kinds of issues because you have not discussed the things that need to be discussed. That's roles and in your family. What kind of roles do you want to have from your spouse? What role are you going to play in the marriage? Have you thought about that? These are things that you should be considering about yourself. What type of man do you think is suitable for you? What type of woman do you think is suitable for you long term as a companion? Because there may be some people that you'll date now that you wouldn't marry later. I'm going to say it again. There's some people that you'll be in relationship now because it's fun, but in terms of a life companion, you will never choose them because there's some key, I'm talking about moral issues that you guys don't have in common. You would never marry that person. You wouldn't even have children with them, but you would take the time to date. But unfortunately, even in situations, people find themselves laying with people sexually, having kids with people that they would have never built a life with. But they're forever tied to that person because of a night, because of a moment, because you were chilling, because you were, in a headspace and you were dating that person. And one thing led to another. And then boom, now you have this forever child, not in the forever literally, but saying you're connected to this person for the rest of your days because of a moment, because of a season that you were in, because of the mental that you were in that space and time. So that's why I say when it comes to dating is all about collecting data. It's all about trying to determine if that person is your person, if that's somebody that's suitable, that's compatible based upon your morals and values and the goals that you have set. You want to be in alignment. Even the Bible says that how can two walk together unless they be in agreement, unless they be agreed? You have to agree on the path that you're on. If this person is saved, if they're not saved, will the person be suitable for you? If they're not saved and you are saved to the core of your bones, you get up speaking in tongues. You know what I mean? Fasting is your lifestyle. You a preacher. Then who are you to get connected to a person that doesn't even think about God, that doesn't pray, that doesn't even believe that He exists? Is that a good collaboration? Is that somebody that you should get into covenant with? No. No, just because he's cute and he has some money doesn't, or she's cute and she has money, doesn't qualify them to be your partner in life, okay? And in this journey. So you have to be honest with yourself and you have to know exactly what your values are. If you're a person that desires children, then you're limited in your choices in terms of pool of people to date. If you don't want any more children, I'll say that if you already have children, then you have to move accordingly. You can't date, because I'll say, let me speak on me. During those moments where I was open to dating, there were a lot of younger men that were pursuing me. And what's interesting is that I just went to the doctor recently, and the she was asking me about something. I said, yeah, I said, I injured my back. For those that may not know, I got into an accident and I said, but I injured my back when I was 21. And I said, and now I'm 50, but from time to time, and she was like, what? She was like, you're 51. I said, yes. And then she was like, oh my God, you don't look it. So because I don't really look my age, there are a lot of younger men that have a tendency to be drawn to me. They know that I'm older than them, right? But I don't look my age. And so that presents a problem because I tell them like right off the gate that I don't usually date younger men, especially younger men with no children, because and the same thing for women. I mean, again, it can go both ways, but with the whole children thing, the whole need for children, wanting children thing, I don't date younger men for that reason because I'm not going to have any more children. I don't plan on it. I don't anticipate. So what's the point of, unless it's just simply, like I said, platonic and you're just going out just to have a good time, just for companionship, and that's it. But if you're trying to date this person and you already know what time it is, and that's something that you don't want at all, and that person has expressed interest in wanting a child or one day, then you know you don't even bother. It's just not going to work. So I think that when we date, we should be wise during that process, especially if we're looking to be married and that's ultimately the goal. I just don't have any more time to waste. I'm 51 years old. So that's another thing. When it comes to your age, life just moves differently for you. You're in a different headspace. When you were in your 30s, for example, when we were in our 30s, for those of us that are around 50, 40 something, we just move differently. So depending on the age and the stage of life that you're in, you move accordingly. So you want someone, right, with the same mindset. Like right now, my thoughts are building so that I can leave something behind for the next generation. My thought process is setting myself up for retirement because I'm a lot closer to retirement than I was when I was in my 30s. You know what I mean? My mindset is maybe preparing for grandchildren because my children are now at the age where they're getting older and one day they will have a family, Lord willing and permit. So if I'm dating somebody that's their mindset is not on retirement, their mindset is just on living and having a good time. You know what I mean? We're just not the same around the same age mentally or emotionally and stage of life. And that's okay. And that's okay. Just know what it is what I'm saying when you're in that single stage, and just be honest with yourself and frank. You know what I mean? Sensitive to people, of course, but I'm the kind of person where I believe that assertiveness is important. We shouldn't be passive. We shouldn't be aggressive, but there are times when you just have to assert yourself and just be honest and say, hey, you know what? You're cute. I'm attracted to you. You're attracted to me. Okay, cool. But I don't see this working long term. And just don't waste your time. All right. So during that waiting phase, you are planning and considering all things, especially if the goal is marriage for you ultimately. Are you ready to, again, get a mortgage? Are you ready to blend each other's lives? Are you dealing with large amounts of debt right now? How are you managing your credit score? You know what I mean? Depending on where you are in terms of age and stage of life, your focus should be the following. You should prepare yourself. If you have some unresolved trauma, and severe dysfunction growing up in your childhood, you're probably still working through some of that. Have you dealt with any of those issues? Have you seen a therapist? Are you talking to a counselor? You're taking counseling? What's going on? You know what I mean? These are things that you should be working on, because the truth of the matter is that when somebody comes into your life, they're going to do one of two things. They're going to trigger some of that stuff from your past, because that's what happens oftentimes, especially when you're in a loving relationship. Your guard comes down, and before you know it, something is going to be said or something's going to be done to remind you of something from your past. If it's unresolved, it's going to cause some type of conflict, and it's not the person's fault. That's their job. Their job is to provoke you to health or to growth and your personal development. When I say provoke, not in an intentional way, but they're very present. The conversations, the things that they do, their mannerism, you know what I mean? They're very present. Will either provoke you or encourage you to be better. Either provoke you from something that was unhealed in the past, or it's going to provoke you to become better. But their job is to indeed provoke you. All right. So if it's undealt with trauma, then you need to deal with that in your singleness. Don't wait until you get married and think that, somehow that person's going to have some magic powers that's going to help you to forget about everything from your past. That's not how that works. I know that 100% that most people, when they get into the marriage, because being single and alone, you have no one but you, right, to contend with. When you get into a relationship, now that's when the development happens, right? That's when the process happens. And they're there for that. That's the whole purpose. The purpose is for you to build together. Yes, it's to have that companionship. Yes, it's to be fulfilled in some way. But they're also there, and you're there also to make them better. right? So it's on both ends, right? And so you're preparing yourself for that by at least doing your due diligence, because in truth, until you get into partnership, until you have a companion, there's some things that you're not going to be able to work on until you're in that relationship. And preferably, if you've made the right choice, then that person is going to have, you know what I mean, intrinsically, they're going to have the wherewithal and the grace to manage whatever it is that you're dealing with and yet struggling with. And they're going to help you, right, and assist you in that area. But if they're not a good choice for you and they're equally unhealed, or there's a trauma bond, which means that you both are gravitate towards one another because you both have very similar backgrounds and hurts and pains, and you connect on that level, then you're really going to provoke each other in a negative way, and it's going to become toxic. So I say, when it comes to mental health and when it comes to trauma and things of that nature, while single, while you're waiting, deal with that now. If you're not in therapy, go to therapy. If you have children that you know that have experienced those type of things, eventually they're going to become adults and they're going to be just like you again. And again, waiting, trying to be in relationships with people, da da da. Get them the counseling that they need. Get them the therapist that they need to help them to transition into a healthy adult, right? That's important. So if you weren't able to get that or you didn't have that, that's why you have a coach in your life, right? So that we can provide some free content. But I do encourage, if you know that about yourself, if you know you experience some form of abuse, whether it's verbal, whether it's physical, if it's sexual, if you were taken advantage of, or anything like that, or you were exposed to perversion or things of that nature, or if you've seen people get killed in your family and things like that, or you were raised in a rough environment, and there are some things that you're still wrestling with, nightmares that you still have, night terrors and stuff. If you know that about yourself, be honest with yourself and get the help now before you get married. And I encourage that with men too, but there are times when men don't really, they suppress a lot of that stuff and they don't deal with it. And that stuff, it trust me, it will later on manifest itself. It may manifest through your children if it's unresolved within you, and if it's something that you're not conscious of and it's in your subconscious mind or your unconscious mind. It will manifest in your children. Trust me, it will manifest. Okay, undealt with trauma, undealt with unhealed pain, it will manifest. So that's something that most couples don't even take into consideration. But I strongly recommend it as a relationship counselor. While you're single, try to deal with as much skeletons as you possibly can. And when you get into the relationship, get to the place of being comfortable to provide much needed information about who you are and your past. And that's another thing when it comes to communication. There's a lot of people that have an issue really being honest and forthcoming about some things. And if you're not a good communicator and you know that going in, that's another thing that you need to work on, because communication is key when it comes to relationships. While you're single, you're picking and choosing who you want to talk to. You're picking and choosing, what you want to share with people because it's just you and it's no one else's business. But once you entertain someone else or you're considering marriage or that person becomes your partner, then guess what? You are no longer your own. That person belongs to you, and you belong to that person. All right. And so you have an obligation to share some need to know information with your spouse. And when I say need to know, I'm talking about anything that you've been through that's going to ultimately affect him or her in the present or the future. So that person needs to be aware of the must need. And what you may say, well, what is the must need? Is it every individual that I slept with? No. But if you slept with someone and happened to contract an STD, yes, they need to know. If you are currently, unhealed from, maybe you have something from your past, and while you were young, and you've contracted something that's incurable, that's need to know. If you were raped, obviously, or molested, that's need to know. And those types of nuances. Obviously, if you were hurt and then you have limitations within your limbs, they need to know this. So there are some things about you that maybe you right now I don't have to share with anyone. There's no one in my life per se, but you have to get to the place of being comfortable of sharing need to know information with your spouse. And that includes expectations, that includes how you were raised and your ideology of roles, gender roles in the family, if any. Those are the things that need to be. So just figure out in your singleness while you're waiting what your expectations are. Figure that out so that when you have those conversations as you're getting to know someone before it gets serious, you can share it, you can convey it, and then inquire what their expectations are in terms of roles and responsibilities. Because trust me, that gets in the way in a marriage too. When the roles aren't defined, or if they're undefined, or there's unrealistic expectations or unknown expectations, that also interferes with a relationship. For example, if a man or woman has an expectation when it comes to working and when it comes to finances, but it was never discussed. Then you get into the relationship, they already have their expectations in their mind, whatever that may be. You get into the relationship to discover that you both are not on the same page. If you've never discussed it and it never came out during the dating phase, during the courting phase, during the engagement phase, and now you're married, could you imagine the conflict that you're going to have? That man may feel like, okay, well, he should work and you should stay home. Now, for some women, that's cool. For other women that are career oriented and you went to school for X amount of years and you have all these student loans, and you are, you're comfortable in the professional space, you want to continue in your profession, you've been doing it thus far, it's what you love, it's your passion, you want to continue to do that, you don't want to stay home, you're not a, you may be a homemaker per se, but you're not that's not what you do, is stay home to be a well-kept woman. That's not what you want to do, right? Or it may be, but I'm saying that's something that you should have a conversation about. Or if your expectation is for him to work and to work hard, what if he's a slacker? What if he doesn't like to work? Maybe he's in and out of jobs. Maybe you didn't know that before, but you're now starting to see that in the marriage. And that's something that you never discussed. Should he pay all the bills? Are you going to contribute to part? Those types of things. So know what it is that you want during that waiting phase, and how you envision your life to be in terms of roles and responsibilities. Know that what it is. Know what it is, so that when you're dating in a relationship, you can have that conversation, have the discussion, be open and honest about it, so that you can determine whether that person is suitable and compatible with you. All right. Same with finances. Should they make the same amount of money that you make? Should they make more? If they make less, is that cool with you? Is that okay? If somebody gets injured and hurt, obviously that's one thing, but what if they're already injured and hurt? There was one time when I dated someone, I've never dated somebody on disability before, but I dated because that's real. And as we get older, you may stumble upon people that you're dating that may be disabled. You know what I'm saying? They may be on disability, or they may have some form of limitation physically, but maybe they're working, but they're in the process of coming off their job a little earlier than what they anticipated because of said injury. So we're at the stage, once you get around 50 and now you're about to enter into your 60s, those are real conversations that you need to have when it comes to disability, when it comes to your physical limitations, health, and wellness. Those things should be at the top of your mind. That's why people choose to date young, because of those reasons. Nobody wants to go into, I can't speak for everybody, but I can only speak for me. I don't want to go into a relationship because somebody need me to be a nurse to them. That's why I don't date men that are too older than me. I don't want to be a nurse at this phase and stage in life coming into a marriage. Nor I'm sure that like me, I'm like right now I'm wounded, but I believe God for my healing. But the same question has to be asked: do a man want to come in having to be a nurse? You know what I mean? Having to tend to somebody's health. If again, it depends on if you're already disabled and you're in a wheelchair and you choose to marry someone that's open, it's known, then you're making a conscious decision to be a caregiver, and you don't care, right? But I'm just saying that if it's not open, and if it's not known, and if it's not clear, is that something that you want to take on right from the gate of the relationship? Most people would say no if they're honest. Most people don't want that. Most people want someone who is strong, someone who is, vibrant, somebody who has a lot of energy, especially if you haven't been sexually active, because you want to be fulfilled. You don't want to have to be careful because their back is thrown out, or they have broken bones or whatever. They had surgery on their heart and they can't, you know what I mean? Nobody wants to have to deal with that. Now, let's be honest. Let's keep it real. Now there's going to come a phase and stage in life when that's just the reality, because such is life, where your spouse is going to be sick and you're going to have to take care of them, or you're going to be sick and you're going to have to be taken care of. But nobody wants to enter into a relationship having to be a caregiver. Nobody wants to sign up for that. Like, let's be honest, in real life. All right. But again, those are your deal breakers. Those are things that you are thinking about and considering way before Mr. or Miss Right is on the scene. You already know what you want and what time it is. And even down to family. Like, how much family involvement do you want? Some people don't mind, blended families. Some people don't mind, the in-laws. They call them in-loves, whatever, and they're cool. But what if you happen to be connected to someone and you may not like your in-laws? You may not particularly care for their family. What happens in those cases? What do you do? So I'm just saying, during the waiting phase, there's a whole lot to consider. You can work on you. You can build up you can work on your credit, you can work on your goals. There's a lot that you can focus on during that waiting phase, to the point where you won't be preoccupied with the fact that you're single and that you're not involved with someone. All right, stay active. I strongly encourage that. And live. Live, stay busy and live. I tell people all the time, you don't have to wait to buy a house. If you're single, you want to buy a house, get a house. If you want a new car, whatever, the car of your dreams, why are you waiting? Why are you delaying life? Because tomorrow isn't promised. Live your life. And when it's time for that person to come, you guys can then merge your lives together. But don't stop living because you don't have somebody that's significant in your life to build with. You continue to build solo. And then when the time comes, he gonna match your energy. If he's the one or she's the one, they're gonna match your energy. They're gonna match your vibe. All right, it's gonna be a good time, especially if they're sent by the Lord. So I just wanted to encourage you, don't be discouraged, especially since Valentine's is right around the corner. Take advantage of them sales and all the discounts of all that candy before they transition to the next holiday. That stuff go quick. They're gonna mark that stuff, that candy. CVS, Walgreens, all these little stores are gonna mark that candy down to 50%, 75%. Get that candy, okay? Enjoy yourself, treat yourself, send yourself flowers, pamper yourself, and go through your process of preparation, because I believe he or she is on the way. All right. So that's all that I got today. Does anyone have any questions? I would love your questions. For those that may not know, I am a life coach. I refer to myself as a soul coach. So I deal with all things pertaining to love, life, relationships, amen, even goal completion. We also help with people in that, as well as premarital and postmarital counseling. I also provide that as well. So if you have any relationship questions, feel free to ask. I'll give you a moment to put something in the chat. If you have any questions, feel free to ask at this time. Yeah, I love talking about relationships. And we are all works in progress, each and every one of us. And I find something new about myself every day, it seems. I say, oh. And I really did enjoy the dating process. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it. And I appreciate it so much. I really truly do. Because it's taught me a lot about myself. And it taught me a lot about what I wanted. And it taught me a lot about what I want when I didn't know before. So I encourage dating. Get in the practice of conversation with the opposite sex. And it will really highlight what you want and what you don't want in a man. Trust me. It's important, or a woman, in your dating process. And looks are not as important as they once were, because eventually you phase out. But I will say attraction is important, not necessarily looks. But if you're not attracted to the person that you're dating, then it should stay on a platonic level. So attraction is important, not necessarily looks. And you become attracted by the person's mind or mindset. You become attracted to how they move, the decisions that they make, especially if they make good ones, or if they can problem solve or strategize. Those things are attractive. Their emotional state is also attractive, Because if you can be connected to someone that will help to ground you, especially if you're more emotional, you don't need that person to be in that emotional space all the time. So that creates balance. So those things become more attractive. Communication becomes more attractive. A person that can communicate and convey their thoughts and their feelings, that can also talk about topics, a diverse of topics, if they're worldly in the sense of their experience and they've traveled and they've been exposed to different customs and ways of life. Those things are oftentimes attractive, not necessarily the looks. So if you're a person that is more into the physical, that's going to phase out after a while. So you need to dig deeper. And then you have to ask yourself, why is it that I'm just attracted to just the physical and not the metaphysical, not the mental? Why is that? Spiritual. What's going on there? Explore your why. Because eventually that too phases. And you're going to be head on with just their soul. And is that enough for you? That should be a question that you should be able to answer. But thank you so much for tuning in for tonight's Chat and Tea with Dr. G in the podcast. If you haven't already liked this video, go ahead and like the video. If you haven't subscribed to my YouTube, Impacting Mindsets Global, go ahead and subscribe and like this video. And I'm sure that you'll be hearing more from me, okay? I appreciate the prayers and all the well wishes. I'm getting better as I go. And I believe God for complete healing, all right? So here's to singleness. Here's to the journey. Here's to the wait. And enjoy the discounted the discounted Valentine stuff as they come. Until next time, God bless and have a good night.